Honestly, along with the characters and the great storytelling of Made in Abyss, I think episode 2 is one of those things that marks the other side of the whole thing that I really do love. I kind of equate myself to Riko in the idea that I'm kind of that... I like that inquisitive mind that she has where everything has to be questioned. What is this? How's that made? And really exploring the world. It's really always been fascinating to me. I think that's the thing that captured me initially with Made in Abyss. Besides the very unique art style is just the world and the creativity of this writer. Like these massive, weird-looking things that all look like they live and breathe in this world. And like I said, having Riko there saying, how was this big, huge building made? And was it mimicked or was it consumed from the surface? That's the stuff that I always love really diving into. And so we got quite a bit of that, just kind of exploring, seeing what's everything in this particular layer, and additionally kind of hitting on a lot of the different species within this area. I like how they kind of point out this big, gigantic dragon and how, yes, your initial mindset is, how does this thing live with the curse? Because of how insanely tall it is. And using the notes from her mother, kind of figuring out that this thing just kind of lives outside of that curse, so to speak. Or regardless of the curse, it seems to exist. Not necessarily explaining why it does. It seems like they have to trek their own path because it seems that Mother's notes are only really covering food, which they do end up kind of utilizing at some point. These eggs. The eggs, that was extremely disturbing. But again, it goes back to that whole idea of this living, breathing world that just kind of works. And so having these eggs that they were able to procure, and then yet later on have to cook them, and they still move. I figured it would be one of those things where they're going to crack it open, and then we're going to have another, I don't know, some sort of mascot character. But we already have, 2 mascot characters in the series. You don't really need another one, but... yeah, apparently despite them being dead, despite them being boiled, despite them being fried, these things still move, and that was extremely disgusting. But it works. That's the oddity of this show. It's always been the oddity of this show. But there's a couple times in this episode they're really hitting on the idea of the 6th layer, the point of no return for humans. They have at the very beginning, Regu's kind of hitting on it again. This is the point of no return. And then additionally at the very end, kind of having, I think it was the voice of Iruko, hitting on the idea, we did not know that the point that we reached here, we would never be able to return the same as we were. After acquiring the eggs, they did see these large explosive bubbles appear. Now, this is interesting because they kind of note that this is probably the geothermal vents that was in Mother's notes. And obviously saying that they're the smell from it was poisonous. So now she had to quickly grab Riko and run off. But the thing that I'm noting here is initially when it first started happening, I figured this would be some sort of being. Something is creating these explosions, that these aren't geothermal vents. Because they went out of their way to note the idea of why would they build their nest there if that was a commonality. Like, this seems to be something normal, these geothermal vents. So you'd think that this would be a regular occurrence. So why would they be living there? I'm thinking this is probably going to be a sign this is something else. Like, something was creating these explosions. But yeah, after eating this food, they have a little bit of nostalgia hitting Riko as she remembers some memories of the friends back at the orphanage. So they decide to send off a letter. I got a huge kick out of this. Now she draws this really cool picture of everybody, and they put it in this little machine, this little package, and Regu immediately is like, do you really want to be in the picture? Because what will they do if they see that you're here with us? And he's like, well, what are they going to do? Come down here and get me? Nobody's going to come down to the 6th layer. But no, I like how they send it off, and this bird just comes by, intercepts it, which technically somebody else ends up intercepting it too. But that was just way, it had this moment of victory. They feel oh, yay, we're going to send this off to everybody. Now everybody can see the accomplishments that we've made. I hope it makes there. Do you think it'll make it there? I really do hope it'll make it there. And then suddenly bird goes by, and it ruins the mood completely. Again, it gives credit to, like I said earlier, this living, breathing world that's really fascinating, and that just anything can happen. The randomness that can happen with this world. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if that was a geothermal vent exploding in the distance. There's so many unknowns. Every step they take, every platform they step on could be a breathing thing that could harm them. It's always been the fascination that I've had with this series. And so yes, that randomness kind of plays into it. But yeah, that's when they have a nice sleep, and then they wake up to their cave, their nesting place has been breached and entered, because not only did they get around Regu's arms being everywhere, but additionally they got past Nanashi's scent, ability to sense things, and took Prushka from Riko's neck, and apparently cut their hair and took some of their hair. Something something weird came in and stole stuff. But because probably wouldn't care about the hair, but yes, Prushka being gone is not okay. So they decide that they are going to go after whatever stole this and use their sense to be able to kind of follow where Prushka's smell went to. And yes, that's when they find the corpses of the monsters that have the sewn up butts, which they open up to find hair. Very weird. This is where we're getting very kind of tribal. And this is where I'm already kind of picking up on my, I guess it could be a thing of, because we're obviously paralleling the story with the previous story. And so like I said before, I'm having a sense that some people from the past that we're seeing are going to be in the current time. And I'm already kind of drawing the conclusion that it's going to be the girl that they took with them down into the abyss. This girl that was unable to bear children, the one that they brought with them to go down there. I think her name is Irumui. I don't know what her name is. I think something related to her is going to be at this, because it seems very tribal. What they're doing, what this whole thing of stealing stuff, the markings on the paintings itself, or the drawing that Nanashi did, the idea of stealing hair and these scare tactics, I guess, is something they might be doing. Seems very over the top. This seems like very weird tribal fear tactics that is being put. And again, it could just be weird creatures in this area, but it feels very tribal in how it's laid out. So I'm wondering if she's involved or somebody of her bloodline is involved, but we'll see. But that's just more our theories are going so far. Again, if you read the manga, I don't need to know. But yeah, that kind of leads them all the way to this one chamber where they end up seeing the mark that was on the drawing, and they kind of note this area looks like some sort of carcass. But additionally, as they go in there, there's just body parts everywhere, rib cages and just everything, bones everywhere. Again, kind of hitting on that whole idea of that tribalness, maybe possibly fear tactics to push things away. But there's also a barrier within here that seems to be blocking the layer. I think they were saying that it was blocking the layer's curse. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, when they enter there, they end up finding a whole bunch of weird creatures, including Magikaja, who is seemingly the leader of this group. I think the title of the next episode is something like the Hollows. So I think they're called the Hollows, but we'll see. But the weird thing is, in this encounter, the first encounter, Magikaja says a couple really weird things. First, it's trying to talk in some other language they don't understand. And then he says, sorry, it seems like you're cave raiders too, and starts speaking in Japanese, or their native tongue. And then as Riko is saying, did you steal it from her? Are you the one that stole the white whistle, your worth, or the life reverberating stone? And it seems like when he hears this, he just says, oh, one good with the stones, and starts walking away. Come. So, again, this is kind of the gibberish stuff that I'm trying to draw something out of, and it's probably going to be explained the first couple minutes of the next episode, but the idea of saying that you seems like you're cave raiders too. I don't know. I might have to look into the raw Japanese of that and how that was actually worded, because that can mean two different things. That could be Magikaja saying, oh, you're cave raiders just like us. Or it could be, oh, you're another cave raiders that's coming here. I'm gonna probably assume the second. I mean, these guys could be previous cave raiders that have been transformed, obviously, but I'm gonna probably assume that it's just them saying, oh, more cave raiders have come here. You know, let me speak normally for you. Because obviously you would assume that tons of white whistles have come down here and probably met these people. But yes, it's kind of attaching to the statement of the life stone, probably assuming that somebody knows about stones and maybe just wants to bring them to somebody that knows about stones. I'm not sure if he's insinuating that he has somebody that knows about life reverberating stones, but we'll see. Obviously, there's this figure that's always in the distance that's probably obviously the one that stole Prushka. I don't know if she's going to be somehow connected to them. Obviously, probably because the smell is there and she has been watching them. But I'll be curious. Like I said, I'll be curious if this group of hollows, if that's what they're called, it will be somehow connected to the group from the past. But anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 2 of Made in Abyss second season. Definitely love the OP as well. Really fantastic. The animation and the visual style of it was really fantastic. I love how they kind of did the parallel stories. They showed a lot of shots of the past characters and a lot of the current time characters and just kind of paralleling them. So it was really fantastic. A lot of really cool shots of big figures and monsters and people. Look really good. Not my favorite song in the world, but at the same time, it was a very fitting song. Kind of still had that tribal feel to it, despite it being more modern of a song. So, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you've read the manga. I don't want to know answers to all this stuff I'm speculating on, as always. But additionally, yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I greatly appreciate it if you consider supporting us through Patreon. Our tips link in the description below. We have a super thanks button down there where you can support us directly through YouTube. And y'all take care.